and girls, we are back on Real Boxing Talk, talking real boxing, talking about real live boxing. Coming up in another couple of days, we have the Charlo Derevyanchenko. I know how to say that. I just messed it up. And Jermell Charlos against Rosario coming up, along with some other good fights on both cards, or one card, or I'm not really sure what it is. It's, I don't know, a deck of 52. There are a lot of cards going on there. But coming up on Showtime Pay-Per-View on Saturday, starting at 7 p.m., 4 p.m. Pacific, in Uncasville, Connecticut, at the Mohegan Sun Arena. There have been enough plugs for everybody else but ourselves. We're going to talk about not only the main events, plural, but some of the stuff that's going on. So let's start again with welcoming John and Charles. We haven't talked about real boxing in a while. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello there. Great to be here.
The one thing that I wanted to touch on with this one is boxing's back. Now, as we've mentioned in the last few months, boxing's been coming back. But as we mentioned in the last few months, we were waiting for a splash. Is this the splash, Charles?
I think it's the prelude to a splash. I think it's close to we can get right now, because what people need to understand, we've talked earlier about the Charlo brothers, you know, Jermall and Jermell, and this is an opportunity for them to both showcase their talents against better than average talent. You know, you think about Jermell going against Rosario. Rosario is a guy that knocked out Julian Williams, who had made this nice little run. And then, of course, Jermall is going against Derevyanchenko? How you say that?
Derevyanchenko.
Right.
Sergiy Derevyanchenko.
Right. I'm just calling D.
Sergiy.
Right. Yeah. So he's a guy that whose only two losses have come against Daniel Jacobs and also Triple G, you know, Gennady Golovkin. So that's major. And because for Jermall, the main thing is he wants that upper echelon. He's always been chasing Canelo, always chasing Triple G. So yeah, I think it's legit that it's a prelude to greatness, and it's probably the closest we got. We know what the big one's coming up. I'm gonna leave that one for John with Lomachenko and Lopez. But this one is, if you really want to see solid boxing, you want to see these two guys tested to see whether or not they're ready to take that next step. Because to me, after, if particularly if Jermall wins this fight and disposes of this guy easily, then there's no reason why Triple G should not be able to say, okay, I recognize you, the same way with Canelo, because you're running out of excuses. That's just me.
Yeah. Okay, John. Now we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the bout and the actual fighters in a minute. But on Max Boxing, you had a report of how this is going to be played out. So kind of give us an idea of the card, the day, the whole thing, and then we'll kind of jump into the bouts themselves.
Well, it's really strange the way they're doing it, Frank. But from my understanding from the reporting of the excellent Max Warren, who by the way is a law student in San Francisco, so it's nice to have a little brainy guy on Max Boxing every now and then. He researched. I know.
Wait a second.
I know. I can't even talk to the kid. He's so brainy. But he explained it that, yeah, like we were talking off air, he was saying that they're splitting the pay-per-views into two shows. I'm trying to think off the top of my head why, because I just peripherally read it for grammar mistakes and all that. Didn't even find anything, but it registered later. I think the idea, and this is purely speculation on my part, is to give each brother their own separate showcase in a sense. You know, you have like a play. You know, you have part one and you have part two, and you have the intermission before the play, right? So they're both showcase fights, but against really solid, talented guys like Charles said. Since it's a dual pay-per-view, this is something that they haven't done very often. I'm not sure they know how to do it, but the card is loaded. They got some good preliminary fights, and yeah, it's a strange one because you're going to watch the first pay-per-view, then have a 30-minute break. You're not going to go, oh, is it over? No, we're just going to I really don't understand the break. Like I said, I'm totally speculating. If I was running it, I don't think I would have had a break because it makes no sense. But since they're co-headliners, that's the only thing I can think. Because you have a headline shot with one of the Charlos, and then you separate it by coming back with preliminary fights and building up to the second headline fight. So that's the only way it makes any sense to me. But it's a super card, and real fast. I'm glad for the Charlos, because we'll talk about this in a minute, but this is a good chance for them to really showcase their skills. People need this. These guys are good. They've been good for years, so it's about time they really get to show it off.
Well, and this is a personal thought, this is what I think it might be, is that they said, okay, and I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I think each one wants to be in the other one's corner or be able to see it or whatever. And if one's fighting after the other, it couldn't happen. So that's why we have a break between them. So one
close.
might end up fighting it. Yeah, one might end up fighting like at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's starting at 7 still doesn't work. Then the other one can be in his corner after that. So
that's very reasonable. They are very close.
That's a possibility.
They are close brothers. Yeah, so that could be.
Well, let's look at kind of just in basic the card that we have. So we have Jermall Charlo fighting Sergiy Derevyanchenko for the WBC World Middleweight Title. Jermell Charlo fighting Jeison Rosario for the WBC, WBA, and IBF Super Welterweight Title. Then we have Daniel Roman and Juan Carlos Payano. Brandon Figueroa, and Damien Vazquez for the WBA World Super Bantamweight Title. And then Riel Casimero and Duke Micah for the WBO World Bantam Title. And Luis Nery and Aaron Alameda for the vacant WBC World Super Bantamweight Title. Now, that's a lot of titles we're talking about. Now, we've said, and everyone talks about it, there are a lot of belts that are going on in the world. We get that. But for a card coming out of the box right like this, there are a lot of titles on the table, and not bad. I mean, we're talking Figueroa, nice fighter. We're talking, Jeison Rosario, as Charles was going to mention earlier, a nice fighter. Derevyanchenko obviously, has been with some guys. So let's break down real quick. Let's just break down the Figueroa-Vazquez fight real quick to get an idea of where we're going and who Brandon Figueroa and Vazquez are. John?
Well, Brandon Figueroa, he's a good fighter. He's like his brother. He always comes to brawl. It seems like defense is not in the Figueroa DNA, and he's got that thing where and I think it's his older brother who Brendan, right, who seems to have taught him in a way how to fight, because he fights that way, but he looks better. And here we go again with brothers, where who's better? Well, Brandon looks better because he seems to have a little bit more to his game. Now, his older brother wasn't bad, but, he had some issues out of the ring, and he knocked out Robert Guerrero very impressively a number of years ago, which really shocked a lot of people. But his worst enemy seems to be himself. So Brandon is a good fighter, and he seems to be improving every time, and he's smart. So he can go places. It's just, how good is he? And hopefully we'll find out Saturday.
And then we've got Damien Vazquez, whose only loss is to Juan Carlos Payano, who's fighting Daniel Roman. So there's a lot of interesting little interchanges here in the middle of what's going on. And, we know Daniel Roman's history as well. So we have the Super Bantams. That's looking pretty good. Charles, what else is there other than the Charles look at on the card? I'm sorry.
Well, like I said, we can talk about specifics because a lot of people don't know some of the guys in smaller weights. But I'm going to tell you something. If I was watching this card, I would say anything that has a championship on it, you need to tune into it, because of the factor that these guys, even if we've kind of opened up the alphabet a little bit in regards to how many titles there are, somebody had to earn the right to get there.
Right.
And the best thing about it is, when you're watching boxing, to me, is to grab a little history, learn as much as you can, and then say, depending on the age of the fighter, to go, I'm going to watch this guy for future reference. Because this is how you learn about boxing. This is how I learned how to watch boxing back in the day. You watch guys, you watch title fights, and you watch guys coming up, and then you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to make a note, a la Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez. I'm going to make a note. 7 years, 5, 6 years later, they're like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Right. And you're like, I was there at the beginning because I remember. Other people the same way too. So that would be my suggestion. I mean, we talk about specifics in regards to the fighters, but I know a lot of people, for the first time, unless you're a what I call a boxing head like John, you're going to come in like, what the hell is that? So that I'm gonna give it to you from from the novice perspective of what you should do. Now I'm gonna turn over to the expert, John.
Oh, I thought I was the expert. Oh, okay. Well, but there's a good point to that, and this is what we've been lamenting for the last year, is that all we get, or all we seem to get, are the headlines, the headliners. We get the title belt or the up and coming, the stud, and then, especially on pay-per-view, we don't get the entire card. What's even more weird is when they show the pay-per-view bout from HBO, used to be, or whomever, and then they show the undercard on a completely other channel. Well, if you're looking for one thing, you aren't looking for it someplace else, unless you're one of the diehards like we're talking about. So this is something where, for I think it's $74.99 or $74.95 or whatever it is, you get a lot of action, which, if you are a boxing person or a sports fan, that's worthwhile to me. Whereas it's $99.99 for one fight that may or may not last more than 6 minutes. I don't know. But here, at least you know you're going to see at least, 6 fights? You're going to see at least 8 minutes worth of boxing, hopefully more than that, so not bad. All right, so we're looking at, let's start with Jermall Charlo and Derevyanchenko first. Let's start with the guys whose name we can't seem to pronounce, John. What's his history?
Well, let me just say one thing about what you were saying, Frank, and it's a good point because I actually forgot about it. Luis Nery and Aaron Alameda are fighting each other, and you got a battle of undefeated super bantamweight. So that might be the fight. There always seems to be, or not always, just that. Sometimes there's fights on the undercard that steal the whole night.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that's going to happen, but this is really a hell of a fight. 30-0, Nery is, I believe, with 24 knockouts, and Alameda's 25-0 with 12 or 13 knockouts. This is ought to be intriguing. Derevyanchenko, or say Sergey, or SSD, or whatever you want to call him. He's an interesting guy because he's pretty old for a boxer. He started late, but he fought earlier in his career. He fought Lara and he fought Usyk when they were younger in 4-rounders and lost to both of them when he was younger. I stumbled on that years ago and I was really surprised. But the guy is like the Rock of Gibraltar in a sense. I've seen him get hurt, but he's tough as nails. And I think Jermall's got the talent to beat him. But if he thinks that Derevyanchenko's just going to go away, like Golovkin thought when he had a flash knockdown against him when they fought,
right?
He's wrong. He's going to have to put him away and brutally knock him out, I think, to get him to stop. Because this is one of those guys that's got a lot of skill. He's not a late bloomer because he was always good. It's just that he's finally getting his chances now. He gave Danny Jacobs a hell of a hard fight. We know how good Danny Jacobs is. And then we figured, because if you read the story about the two of them, they had sparred for years. So you know how that is. You know the other guy's moves. So but you still, even though if you know the other guy's moves, you still got to be damn good to hang with him. And he did. And some people even thought he won that fight. I'm not one of them. I thought Danny Jacobs won that fight, but he was hung in there. Now, Golovkin, he hurt Golovkin more in that fight than Canelo did, I thought. I mean, even my lady friend, who's not a big boxing fan, she was watching with me. She goes, wow, I've never seen Golovkin look that hurt. He wobbled a couple of times. And Derevyanchenko is just a tough, talented guy, and he's going to probably try to take Jermall Charlo into the deep waters and try to drown him, like we like to say. But this is really going to be good for Charlo because he needs this. He needs this kind of fight. He needs to see where he is. I mean, I think he's in a way underrated. If he can knock out Derevyanchenko, something that Golovkin could do, something that Jacobs couldn't do, even if he stops him, this is huge. So I think that's why his team likes this fight. But, of course, if he wins a wide decision, that's good, too, because he can say, well, look at Jacobs and Golovkin struggled. I beat his butt. I beat him easy. So Charlo better be on his A game, though, because if he's not, this guy's one of those annoying guys that is not annoying. Like I said, he's very talented. So he's going to get – as the fight goes on, it's going to get rougher for Charlo, so or more dangerous. That's my thinking. So as we get in rounds 9 and 10, 11, and 12, it'll be either one way or the other, and Charlo better be, like I said, on his game.
Well, and Charles, on the other end, we're looking at, from the other brother, fighting Jeison Rosario. So let's get a little background on what we can expect from him.
Well, of course, you know, the Jermell's the more feistier one, I guess. He had one loss to Tony Harrison, and I think that threw him for a loop, because when you are a fighter like that is so used to winning and all of the hype between the Charlo brothers, and he got a setback, it kind of like threw him for a loop. And then he had to come back and change his mindset. He fights Harrison, clearly wins the rematch. So
right.
He had to overcome adversity. But now this opportunity here now is the continuation of moving up and getting the same respect his brother's looking for. Because you look at Rosario. Rosario was kind of one of those guys, kind of in there, feisty kind of dude as well, making headway. And then he faces Julian Williams. And you say to yourself, J-Rock, we know J-Rock got blasted before by the other brother, and it's like, okay. But J-Rock has come back strong. He defeated, did he beat Andre? Was it Andre, or was it no, not Andre. What was the other gentleman that he beat? That was
Garrett Hurd.
Hurd, yes.
Yeah, he beat Hurd, right? He shot Hurd. Yeah.
He shot Hurd. And that was a hell of a fight. And at that point, after he defeated Hurd, you're saying to yourself, wow, he's ready now. He's
right there, right?
He got his legs up under him. He's a champion now. Then he gets into the ring with Rosario, and then Rosario stops him. And you're like, what the hell happened? What the hell happened? So,
that's accurate.
Yeah, so with that being said, he's coming in thinking, if I can get Williams out, I can get this young Charlo out. And Charlo's like, I'm not Julian Williams, okay? But he's thinking, but rightfully so, this is an opportunity for him to shine as well. So I think, but the one thing that's beautiful about it is this is a way for both of these brothers to come out, put stake in their claim on being in the upper echelon now. Because now it's like, you can no longer say, well, whatever, especially when you look at Jermall, you know, fighting up in middleweight. You know, there's no reason why Triple G and why Triple G and then why others cannot say he's not ready, because this guy has legitimately fought somebody. And then again, when you said before with Jermell being younger down there, being Rosario, now it's like, okay, where do we move next? And I think if they both win impressively, I think it opens the door for major opportunities, major money. Because now, if you're a Canelo Alvarez, you're looking around, you've been ducking and looking and whatever you're doing. Now you go, hell, pay-per-view, they won, they're exciting, had decent numbers. I can make money with this guy. Because at the end of the day, let's keep this 100. The zone and all of the people he's going through these contract negotiations or litigations with now have been looking for talent. People, guys that they think are talented and are money makers. I guarantee you, Charlo, if he wins this fight, is one of those guys. And I think they both come to that page to go, we need to look at something, because we'll pay you your amount of money that you require to face this guy.
Well, the thing that I think, and we felt guilty of this, at least I did, when we were looking at bouts that had already been fought, is that, and we're not just us, the public in general, we fall in love with the idea of one guy, and even though it was one of the best fights ever, we still went, and you see him, and you see him, and we even started throwing the pronoun he, without even thinking about the other guy in the ring, which is what I think is going to happen here. This is a Charlo card for both Charlo brothers, but for this particular fight with Jermell and Jeison Rosario, there's 3 belts up for grabs. 2 belts are held by Rosario.
Sure.
So let's think about that for a second. And that's the thing that I think we tend to forget. When the promoters are promoting the fight, we assume, everyone, not just ourselves, that this is the favorite, this is the guy, these are the people who are supposed to win. And when we saw with the loss to Tony Harrison, it's kind of, you've presumed too much. Maybe. Now, again, you can debate on how that fight actually played out. But in this particular one, even though Jermell Charlo's 33-1 and Jeison Rosario's 21-1, they're Rosario's belts that we're looking at. And again, this was a Julian Williams fight that should have happened, but Rosario beats J-Rock. So before we give the accolades and the build-up for the Charlo brothers, I think that it was important for us to take a look at the two guys who are going to be fighting because, as we've said, styles make fights, but you have to have somebody to fight as well. So I think it's important to look at this because, as Charles said, we come out of this and it's going to be very lucrative for somebody, but it may not be the Charlo brothers.
You know, that's a good point, Frank. But, you know, from when I watched Rosario blast out Julian Williams, which was, you know, pretty disappointing for Julian. He comes home the champion and he exits the ring without his belts. I mean, that was what you were talking about. That was a showcase night for Julian Williams. Right. And instead, it's Jeison Rosario who says, that's fine. But what I noticed is that Rosario is very easy to hit. Right. And Charlo should be able to get him that way. But the Charlos have never looked chinny to me. Like, we know Julian Williams can be kind of chinny. We know that. Mm-hmm. He's going to get his chin. He's going to get a chin check here with Rosario, but he's going to nail him with a lot more punches. But, you know, you're right. If he nails him right, that's the thing, because Rosario's only 25. He's very hungry. He was stopped once by Nathaniel Gilmore, I think is his name. I'm trying to remember. I'm looking myself because my memory isn't nearly as good as one point. Nathaniel Gallimore stopped him in 2017. Right. And I see now. Here we go. For a minute, I should have remembered that maybe he's related to Willie Gallimore, who was a great Chicago Bear player in the '60s. I remember that.
And then we get to the Gale Sayers thing, and okay.
No, I know we're not, but it's just old age is what I'm trying to say here. But Rosario's a hungry guy, and he's got something to prove too. So Jermell better not go to sleep on him, or he'll end up going to sleep. That's the thing. And I like that you made that point, Frank, because in any sports, especially in boxing, when you have showcase fights, I think this is and it isn't. It's a showcase, but it's also supposed to do what Charles said, establish these guys are A guys. And I think they are. You know, I do. I think the Charles, as far as talent goes, are. But anything can go wrong in boxing, as we know, and the A guy can get knocked, or almost A guy get knocked off his perch. And I don't know, real fast, I never understood the way the Charlo brothers' career has been handled because, like I said, when I first saw them, and you guys too, I'm sure 5-6 years ago, maybe longer, I thought, man, these guys got maximum talent. And here they are, 30 years old, and still a lot of people don't even know them. Right. You know, and that's what Canelo's going to say. I tell you, Canelo's going, he's not a name. Who's he fought? So this will be a good counter for that. See, with Jermall could say, I beat Derevyanchenko. You didn't fight him. He gave Golovkin hell. So that's a good counter. But that's the oldest line in boxing. You can go back 100 years ago, and some hotshot will be calling out the champion, and the champion will go, nobody knows him, and he hasn't fought anybody. And we're all like, come on, man. We're getting tired of this. Charlo wins this. He definitely earns a shot at Canelo. Will he get it? That's another show.
Well, yeah, and hopefully we'll have more. So, but Charles, you made a good point to go along with what John has said. Is it more than a showcase? Is this a legitimate challenge for both of them? And if so, is that the next wave? Because we've been talking about these two, at least between ourselves, for quite a while now. And as John mentioned, they are 30 years old. I was shocked to see that. I mean, I didn't realize I thought they came out at 23, 24. We've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, they're 26, 27. And okay, no, they're 30 years old. Boxers don't make it much longer than this with this kind of hype and that kind of athleticism style they fight with. So is this the make or break for both of them, or at least one of them, Charles?
I wouldn't say make or break. I think for Jermall, it might be because of the factor that I'm not sure if he's going to get another chance to prove that he's worthy. And I think that's what Canelo's folks are looking at. I don't think Triple G's folks really want to have anything to do with him if he wins this fight. Because in my opinion, Triple G's getting older. Everybody knows it. And that's what Canelo's waiting. He knows that too. He's waiting for him to keep old as hell, and then he's going to go and
Sure.
put him down and act like he has some major accomplishment. But I will say this to you. I agree with what you said, that there are more than two guys in the ring. But I think, too, when you look at the Charlo's career, the point about them being 30 is major. And you talked about how their career has been handled. One of the things, let's be real, too, they have not received the opportunities that they should have at this point. You know, Triple G, we talk about Triple G from Jermall's standpoint. Triple G and Canelo had wanted nothing to do with him at all. Then you go down to, as you mentioned, Rosario is fighting because Julian Williams had a chance at 2 belts. I mean, the one thing the younger Jermell did was Tony Harrison's a damn good fighter. Mm-hmm. He is very good. And he fought him once, lost, came back, fought him again. And you would say, well, why is it that another guy like Julian Williams has 2 belts? I mean, some of that doesn't register well with me because it doesn't make sense. So some people have to go other ways and they just keep winning to prove the point. But I'll say this to you too, like, you wonder about these matchmakers, why aren't they doing more to get these guys pumped up? Because one of the first things that come off my head is if you have Jermell and Rosario in this for these 2 belts, right, or 3 belts, one of the undercards or somewhere down the line, I want to see Tony Harrison versus J-Rock. Julian Williams.
There you go.
Now we building on to something, right? Now we're building on to something. That's how you create things going on. Because let's be real, the other part, if you move up with Jermall, Canelo is searching for an opponent. It'd be different if he had a legitimate opponent that we go, oh yeah, cool, they're gonna pay the money. I can't wait to see Canelo in his next fight. That's not the case. Everybody they bring up, they're finding reasons or why they don't like him or whatever. You got a legitimate guy that's undefeated that is getting in with the guy that, as John mentioned, gave Triple G hell and kind of gave some other folks hell too, Daniel Jacobs hell. So now this guy's undefeated. Where else are you gonna go? You gonna run across the pond? You gonna keep making excuses? You are running out of excuses. And I get off this very quickly. The reason why I don't think Triple G wants any of it is because if you lose to Charlo, your opportunity with Canelo is out the window. Right. You're an old man now. He's like, well, you can't even beat that young kid. Why am I going to waste my time? And everybody else, a lot of people have done it before, but I think they know that, and they're just sitting, waiting. He'll fight somebody that they know they can win and feel good about it until that time comes back around where everything gets back to normal, crowds are coming in, and they can make that money, because this could be Triple G's last big payday.
Well, and we're looking at that question of who have you fought is pretty stupid, if you ask me. Not your question, but the question in general, because and I'm always going to have to go back and make sure I'm talking about the right one. Jermell he lost to Tony Harrison. He got that one taken care of. Austin Trout. Remember when Austin Trout was no pun intended, I'm sorry, the big fish in the pond?
Fish, yeah.
I can't believe that came out. Erickson Lubin, who we last week. We're talking about maybe not the cream of the crop of the division, but let's face it, the cream of the crop of the division for who we're actually going to see. Erickson Lubin's out there fighting. Is Triple G out there fighting? No. If we're going to see something, get out there and do something. And I will say that, and I think, Charles, you made the point, both Charlo brothers have fought whomever they're available to fight, whoever's them. They may have not fought everybody, but not everyone's going to fight them. I think that they've been put in a situation where, it's kind of, they both have to be available to fight the same day or the same week or the same month or something like that. We've lumped them together, which we do with twins. I understand that. So if you're going to fight on this day, you're going to have to fight on this day too. So both brothers have to be available at the same time. That's kind of tricky matchmaking. I get that part. Also means you have to skew the card for them as well. Now, that's the business side of things. I don't really care about that, but that's part of what's going on. But to say that, who have you fought? This is the old adage. I fought everybody I've had to fight, or everyone that's been available to me. As you said, who's ducking whom? I don't think these two are ducking anybody, but as John mentioned, I'm not sure that they're actually getting, I don't want to call it the best management. I don't want to say that. I don't want to put words in anybody else's mouth. But as you said, how has their career been handled? Because now they are 30 years old, which you would have thought with the hype that they've received, they would have had more action by now. So, John, I'm trying, there's a question in there somewhere, but what are we missing here? What's missing in this equation? And I like Charles' idea of saying, hey, if we're going to have these two guys fight on the same card anyway, why don't we get the losers of this fight on this fight? Why don't on the next card? Why don't we get Tony Harrison? Why don't we get J-Rock? Why don't we get Rosario? Why don't we put them all together? I think we could still get Austin Trout out there. Why don't we do something?
Jared Hurd too.
Jared Hurd, right.
Yeah, I mean, he's always exciting. You know, that's a great question, or you didn't even ask the question, but I was already thinking about it, extrapolating on that, because we've often had that question about some fighters, and is it people like to blame the fighters and say, well, why didn't he fight this guy? But is it the fighter's fault, or is it his management's fault? That's always the question that I always ask myself. Personally, I'm going to come right out and say it. I think it's his management. I don't think they've done a really good job with the Charlos. I don't. These guys should be further along. The point you keep making, Frank, is that you thought they were 25, 26. That's because they haven't got to that point where you know how old they are, because somewhere, right, some way they got lost in the shuffle, and that should have never happened. They already should have fought somebody. I mean, why doesn't Charlo fight Andre if he can't get Canelo? Andre never says anything about Charlo. You notice that? So what does that mean? Now, who's ducking who? That's the question. Or whose management team can't get it done? So see, if I was managing the Charlos, and I don't even like trash talking, but if I was managing the Charlos after this fight, I'd be going mouthy as hell. I'd be doing it too as a manager. I'd say, look, we've been going at this for years. We want a big name. We're tired of you. I mean, I'd say, look, I'm tired of you guys being scared of us. We want Canelo. We want Andre. We want whoever. We'll take anybody on. Stop being a chicken. Meet me in the ring. I'll meet you anywhere. I think you got to try to start forcing it, because for whatever reason, and I'm not sure, I can't give you a great reason, Frank, but somewhere they've got lost a little bit, and they shouldn't be where they are. At 30, they should have already fought a name that you think of immediately. That's my point. Both of them. I mean, they fought good fighters, no doubt about it. Good, solid fighters. I think that's the point here. This is going back in an arc. I think their team is thinking that Derevyanchenko and Rosario, who we just saw win, is a little bit above, not a little bit, quite a bit above of some of the other guys they fought, and then they can springboard that into the next, the big fight, like Charles was saying, where you can say, look, we did this. We want the next big one. We want Canelo. They want Canelo. And Canelo don't want that, I don't think, because he knows that Jermall Charlo would give him hell. He knows it. But he keeps saying he'll fight anybody. And I think if they pushed hard enough, he would fight him. I do. I think Canelo would fight him. Golovkin, right. Canelo's going to wait until Golovkin's 50 years old, and he's pushing it. He's 38 already. So he can't keep, the poor guy can't keep waiting. He doesn't want to fight. But again, he'd fight him if that was the fight. He'd fight him. He's another one. But if I'm in Charlo's team, if I'm part of Charlo's team, I'm going, look, what we're doing obviously is not working. We got to try a different approach. And if that means playing the villain, whatever you want to say, getting vocal, and they've tried it a couple times, but it kind of fell flat. I think they need their team to get unified about this. We win on Saturday. We're going for the brass ring. We're going for the whole thing. We're going to start screaming, we want Canelo, we want Canelo, we want Canelo, or somebody close to that. And if it's Golovkin, fine, because Golovkin could try to win the championship again, and he loves championship belts. But they need somebody like that on their resume to say, okay, we're there.
Well, my normal memory that just kind of twirls things around just drew a blank. I'm trying to remember the quintuplets from Canada or from Montreal, whatever. That anyway, the concept of what I'm thinking about is going to lead to a question to Charles. Is that should we stop thinking of them as twins and start thinking of them as fighters? Now, Charles, you mentioned something off air about a show that you saw them on, and kind of detail that for me, if you would.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could look at them as individual fighters, but the whole draw to them is that they're twins, and they love it too because of the factor that they both kind of like simultaneously held a belt within the same division. They talked about that. It wasn't for a long time because the Jermall moved up so Jermell could do his business in the lower division, but they were kind of just talking about stuff. They're very competitive, and they're talking about sparring one another as brothers, which is kind of bizarre and crazy, but that's who they are. But I think it just comes to show you that, yeah, you can see them as fighters, but and I don't know their management team, and I don't know them, but from what we have seen so far, if the two of them had opportunity, let's say Jermall, they say, all right, Jermall, you get the call, you get to fight Canelo. And he said, but we're fighting May 2nd. We're fighting Cinco de Mayo Day. And then I don't think Jermall is going to go, well, if my brother can't fight on May 2nd, then I'm not fighting. I think they're kind of past that. I mean, they push it like that. But if you really want to be the guy, as John mentioned, at 30 plus years, you want those opportunities, I think they would go separate because of the factor that it's money time. It is money time. You're getting older. If you want the real shot, I think they would separate. But again, as John mentioned, he said I agree with that. I'm not sure if anybody wants to see, particularly Jermall. Jermell, I think Jermall's better than Jermell. I think he's a little bit more developed. I think he's a stronger fighter. He kind of has a way to kind of see through things. And he is trying to go for the gold because, as you mentioned, other guys that he could fight, but it's like you don't hear anybody calling out Jermall. And Jermall, they probably did the best thing you could do it is when you went after a guy that just fought Triple G. I mean, what better way to go? And he gave Triple G Derevyanchenko. So that's where you go. And like, okay, I beat him. I destroy him in 3. You knocked him down in the first round. I destroy him in 3. Now what? So I think you have to, as we're doing, you have to, as you're saying they're trying to do, you have to remove the excuses and keep climbing the ladder. Because right now, I think once everything gets back on to normal, you're going to have to do something because I think if the fighters that continue to delay and wait, when everybody starts coming back and spending money, if you don't jump on board, even Canelo, you're going to get left in the dust because there's a lot of money out there. A lot of money out there. Nobody's going to keep waiting on you to keep fighting when you're good, but are we going to say that Canelo is the greatest of all time, even in that class? No.
Well, my memory just, and thanks to Google, the Dion quintuplets is what I was thinking of. Anyway, I had to throw that out there. Sorry about that. But the idea of just what you said, Charles, is that if, for example, let's just say that Canelo isn't the greatest since, before sliced bread.
He's not.
He's not. Okay, so shouldn't we be making inroads, or shouldn't we have already made inroads to say, not only can we beat him, we don't need him if we're that good. Now, I know this is a public perception and also a marketing thing, but it seems that for some odd reason, in these weight classes, all roads lead to Canelo. Is that something that we have to have? Is that something we can divert and go this way? Like, we don't need him. We can be good without him. We can prove to the masses that we don't need Canelo. Or is it because he's been set up as the face of boxing that we have to go through him? So does beating D-Dog, as I'm going to call him now, does that do us any good? Because now he said, well, who else should beat? Well, I beat, J-Rock and Austin Trout too. Yeah, 5 years ago. No big deal. So is there what do you get? What do you get out of this? Again, Andre doesn't want to be involved in this. Triple G doesn't want to be involved in this. Can you get to Canelo after these fights? Or do you have to fight each other?
Well, you know what, Frank? I think you hit on what they've been doing. I think they've been trying to do this without Canelo. Jermall. He mentions Canelo sometimes, but not very often. I think he's been taking the logic, and Al Heyman is who manages him. Look, we don't need Canelo. We can do fine without him, but it just depends on what you want. If you're fine with that, fine. Keep doing it. You know, you're going to be fighting these guys. You're going to be making less money. You're going to be winning like you always do. If you're okay with that, hell, you're still making a lot of money.
Right.
But if you want to do what fighters always say, and you mean it, which is, I want to fight the best, then you're going to call out Canelo. And he's the richest. If you want to make the most money and you want to fight the guy that's perceived as the best fighter in the middleweight division, and that's a boxing tradition. You call out Canelo and you try to get him. Or see, if I'm Charlo, I go all the way. I say, if I win, which I think he will Saturday against a guy that's a tough, good fighter, as we said, he calls out Canelo and Andre. He says, I'll fight either of you guys. If Canelo, if you're still running around in the courts, you don't want this, fine. Andre, hey, I'll come to Canada and fight you. But see, Al Heyman, he's like Eddie Hearn in some ways. He protects his fighters. He doesn't like to take chances. This is a chance in a way that he's taken with Jermall, but he should have taken this chance 2 or 3 years ago. Because I think Jermall is that good. I totally agree with Charles. I think he's really good. He's got power. He's a good athlete. He's smart in there. He should have been fighting a guy like Derevyanchenko 2 years ago, or Jacobs. Why didn't he ever fight Jacobs?
Right.
That would have been a hell of a fight. Did you see that fight, Charles? Jermall Charlo against Danny Jacobs. I mean, that would have been a great fight, I think. So it's almost like you got guys over here and guys over here, and they look over at each other and go, yeah. But I don't think it's them. I think it's their management, because they're making them a lot of money and they don't really want to risk it a little bit. And then, we're okay. But again, comes down to what you want. If you want to be the top guy, you got to go after the top guy, and that's Canelo.
Well, as we talk about things, this next little part is our duct tape, our fix-all for everything, because it usually makes sense. And Charles mentioned this, almost a year ago. This would be a perfect time for an eliminator for a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And,
thinking that a few minutes ago. Yes.
Yeah. So, just as a hypothetical, Charles, how would you put this together as a tournament? Because I think it'll work.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is because, let's just say we go to the middleweight, and let's talk about Jermall up in the middleweight. Since Canelo is king, we know how that is. He has the opportunity to call the shots and do whatever. Everybody else up under that, let's seed that tournament. So you go, was it Andre? You go Andre, you go Jermall, Charlo. Your Triple G's not going to do it because he doesn't want to get caught up in it.
Well, let's say in a perfect world what we would put together.
Yeah, but then Triple G's in there.
Okay.
And then everybody goes. You get the top 6 fighters in there, and the king comes out, and your chance is to fight, or you make it 4 because you don't want to have too many fights in between. You make it the top 4, and then you come out of that. The champion, the person that wins gets the fate Triple G. And let me just say this too. The other part you mentioned real quick about the promoters. John, you talked about Daniel Jacobs. And Daniel Jacobs was an option and still might be an option. But when Daniel Jacobs kind of did himself a disservice by losing, and it's like Al Heyman's like, we ain't got to worry about that anymore.
Right.
See what I'm talking about? We're going for champions. So if he had continued to win, unfortunately, when you do that, it's a ready-made excuse. It's the same thing that Canelo keeps making on other people. But Billy Joe Saunders, all of that, keep going down the line. It's like, damn, is anybody good enough for this dude? Who else is left? So, but getting back to the point of the eliminator, I think you just do that. You get like the top 4 guys, top 5. If you drop down even lower with going to the super welterweight, as you mentioned down there too. First, I told you out the box was Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison comes out. You also bring in Julian Williams, and you just kind of build it from there.
Lubin.
And then or even Lubin, it's right there.
Right.
There are a lot of names, guys that want to fight. And in that way, again, you remove all of that's why you hope somebody like, I don't know what is it, was it Schaefer? I don't know what Schaefer's doing right now. This is the type of perfect tournament for him.
He's involved in the other one. World Boxing Super Series. He's involved now.
You have all of these names. They come out. I mean, John, you're one of your favorite guys. If it had not been for the Super Six, we wouldn't have known. I mean, you knew him,
right,
but the whole world would not have known Andre Ward.
True. Very true.
When he came out, he had the opportunity. He boom, we went through him. And then, of course, everybody, boxing enthusiasts knew who the Son of God was. But if you get the opportunity, then you have to play that waiting game. And I think that's kind of similar to what the Charlos are going through right now.
Well, and I think that we have the king of the hill that hasn't earned his right to be king of the hill. That's just my opinion. We were talking about Canelo. I mean, I have no doubt, no way of saying, yes, he's fought well, he's a good fighter. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's been anointed this guy without having to fight people to get there or to stay there. Let's put it that way. So this would be a thing. I'd go to 8 guys, and I would go to 8 guys and to say, all right, we have a year and a half to put this together, maybe even longer, however you want to look at it, I don't know. But coming out of where we're coming out of now, and let's be honest, we're not out of it yet. But after this thing happens here with the Charlos and Derevyanchenko and everybody, okay, we could look at it and say, who's still in play here? I'm still going to say J-Rock is still in play. I'm still going to say that if Austin Trout wants to be involved, Austin Trout's still involved. You're talking Billy Joe Saunders. You're talking
that's 160.
Yeah, right. So
Chris Eubank. Chris Eubank,
right, exactly. Chris Eubank Jr., right.
Jamie Munguia.
We could come up with 8 guys, and as you said, with Andre Ward, you might have a couple of wild cards thrown in there that we aren't really sure about, but let's give these guys a shot as well. I think you can find 8 guys rather easily, and maybe you call it's the eliminator to get to Canelo. Canelo, you don't want to fight for another year? That's fine. We'll find somebody for you to fight. How's that? Okay? Yeah. If he's going to stay off to the side, it'll be harder to sell. Yeah, I know John's shaking his head. It'll be harder to sell, but we're going to put this together because we are trying to get someplace. Andre wants to fight somebody if he does. This guy wants to fight somebody if he does. That guy. Let's put him in there and see what happens. And then if that means that the winner of that, it still isn't a winner, but he still has to fight Canelo, okay. Let's see what happens. But right now, we're kind of in that dance. Now, granted, the last 3 or 4 or 5 months has made things even more ridiculous. I get that. But you would think that, I mean, the NFL said we have a plan coming out of the pandemic. The NBA said we have a plan. It took a while for it to come up with it, but we're going to try this. We can always postpone it. We can always cancel it. But let's come up with something where we say coming in November or December or whatever, because these fights still don't look like they're on paper yet. This could be done in a matter of 3 weeks, I would think. Sign the contracts, put everybody together, go, okay. Once we come out of things, boom, 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 boom. Every week we're going to have one of you guys fighting somebody. And then add undercards along with it. I think that would be great because I look at this fight card as unconventional as it is. This is a good card.
It is.
And I would think you could come up with a headliner of Andre. You could come up with a headliner of Billy Joe Saunders. You could come up with a headliner of Erickson Lubin, which you've already done, or whomever you want to put in this mix and go, and now we can build a card behind that. And maybe you even say we're going to have it set up where it's the middleweights and the bantamweights, kind of like what's going on now. You run them lockstep with each other. And you maybe have 3 cards that are all part of eliminators or tournaments. I don't know. But there are ways it can be done. And I can't be the only one that's going, let's try something different.
Well, let me say this, Frank, what you said about Canelo. If that was the case, Canelo would go, you're not going to tell me who to fight. Sure. He'd say that. If they had an eliminator to fight Canelo, he'd go, fine, you go ahead and fight. I mean, I'm going to fight you because he's in that position. when last year he beat Jacobs and he knocked out Kovalev. Now that was pretty good, I think. But he's able. The point is, the reason I brought this up, he's able to pick and choose who he fights at this point. And real quick, I think his man. See now, Canelo. Talk about management teams. Golden Boy and Richard Schaefer earlier, whatever, they handled Canelo right because they put him in with Floyd Mayweather when he was just a kid, knowing that he would most likely lose, but also knowing that it would not hurt him.
Right.
That was about the most brilliant move they ever did because that's putting you with the best fighter in the world competing. And if you lose, you win.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so he eventually became the top guy. So now that's what you call management. That's having the foresight to think, okay, I know I got this figured. But Canelo's a good fighter, no doubt about it. But it happens like this, Frank, when you're the top guy, you get a little bit too spoiled where you can pick and nobody's going to tell you what to do. And that hurts the sport is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I agree with that to the extent of that, yes, if he is the top guy, like they say, he's earned the right to pick and choose. I don't argue that at all. I think you're absolutely right with that. And he probably should have that deciding factor of you can hold your tournament at whatever you want. I'm still not going to fight the guy because I'm the guy on top of the heap. That's great. But in the meantime, we, the fans, get something.
Right. That's what I mean.
And this is, but this is my way of saying, Charles, to the point of what we were making is, okay, we want to see something and we want to be excited and we want to see the next Andre Ward. We want to see what's going to come out of this. And if Canelo's not going to fight anybody, that's fine. This is what I said of this is the road. Let's take a little swoop around that and keep on the path, but go around him. So Charles, is it something that you think people would watch or they go, well, Canelo's not involved in that, so who cares?
No, I mean, you think about it. I think people will watch it. I mean, we watched Andre Ward. Like I said, that Super 6, it came out. Right. I really wasn't big on that division at the time because I was looking for something, right? I mean, I knew all of the guys from across the pond and, from across the waters. But then again, you heard about this guy that nobody heard of you heard of him, but he wasn't receiving the love in that division. And he comes up, and then he wins the first one. You're like, well, damn, is he that good?
Maybe I should pay attention.
And I tuned again. I got it. Is this a fluke? Who is this dude? He talking about son of God, walk around, everything like that. And he continues to win. And not only that, he goes on to flourish. So to get to your point, I think it would be great to start that way. But then again, like you said, Canelo is the guy that decides what he wants to do. But Canelo's running out of time. And I'll say this. And I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of other promoters and other stuff going on. But if I'm the zone, I'm definitely doing that because you're losing money. And Canelo's always complaining, or what the lawsuit says, you're turning down people that you don't think is worthy of him and he wants his money. Okay, you want your money? We got somebody for you. We want you to fight this dude. You want your 35 million, 40 million, no problem. You want Triple G? We're trying to work on that. But until then, this guy has worked his way through the last, couple fights. He's the guy. He's legit. He has some titles. Here's your money. If it's Billy Joe Sanders, let it go. Sanders, let it go. And it's always something back and forth, back and forth. And again, it tells you something's amiss amongst Canelo's folks because you went into this contract with all of these great things, how great it was and everything, and you fighting with them. You fighting with them about who's your next opponent. And then let's be real too. As a boxing fan, if he keeps fighting guys or keep moving up, down, okay, yeah, you went up and you won that from nostalgia for me. That's a Roy Jones move. Well, we're going to go to the weakest dude and light heavy and win that time, just so we can say from a lineage standpoint, here's what we did. But to really to receive the championship caliber that he wants everybody to put up on him, then it's time for him to say, yeah, I'll fight him. I don't have a problem with this. How much money you going to give me? Let's find that guy. And I think DAZN has nothing to lose because right now, everything else they've done, he's turned down. Now he's suing them. So why not?
Right. Okay, now I know that we've allowed Canelo to hijack the show, so to speak, but that's okay.
Only a little.
We got into what we needed to get into, but John, let's crawl into his head for just a second. Don't park there, but just kind of go through it. Is it, if you were him, thinking like him, not like yourself, is it, I'm going to, as you say, I'm going to fight whomever I want to fight because I'm the man? Or is it, I don't really care what the public perception is because I'm going to get paid no matter what? Or is it, I think this is the best for everybody involved. I'm just going to be patient and see what happens and make something work.
Boxing is an individual sport, you know, and you got to think of yourself first. So I think he's thinking to himself, pure speculation here. Look, I signed this contract. They said they were going to do their part. They're not doing it. Golden Boy said they were going to do their part. They're not doing it. He's picking a fight with everybody except fighting anybody in the ring. If I was a close friend of his, I would say, look, Sal, you're hurting your career by doing this. I mean, you keep saying you just want to fight. Well, then figure this out with the zone. Figure it out with Golden Boy. Have a sparring session with Oscar De La Hoya and beat the crap out of him and get it out of your system. and get in the ring, because people don't want to hear about the legal problems, especially when a guy's making $35 million. In this world right now, this is where it's going to get, where people are going to go, he's complaining he's making $35 million, $350 million contract. He could end up not getting all that money because the zone could go under.
Right.
You know, so he better think about that too. He better get in there while they still got a little money to pay him. I heard part of the problem was, or read, that he wasn't going to get $35 million, and that's what angered him. He's going to take a little less, and he wasn't happy, but he was willing to do it, from what I understand. You have so many conflicting stories. But if I was him, I would try to, if I really wanted to fight, and I thought of myself as a fighter, and I think he does, I would want to, and you got all these people around you telling you what to do, right? You're sitting at home, you got all this money. This is the thing about boxing. You get all this money, you probably get a little lazy. You're like, I'm 30 myself now. I don't have to do, he doesn't have to do anything anymore, really. He's got enough money for the next 400 years, probably. But if he still thinks of himself as the man, then he's going to have to do what a boxing man would do.
Man does, right.
Okay, you guys, this is done with you guys.
Yeah.
We're going to figure this out. Be the boss. Say, we're going to figure this out. We're going to have a meeting right now because I want to fight.
I want this guy. Let's go.
Because I'm the guy. People aren't going to pay to see the promoters or the managers. It's like when the sports goes on strike. And they're, well, okay, these guys make too much money. Well, yeah, is anybody going to pay that kind of money to see the owner of a baseball team playing baseball? No. People that pay that kind of money because they want to see the best major league players, the best football players. It's not about you guys, the owners. I mean, it is a way because you got a lot of money, but that's all you got is a lot of money. So you see, it goes into that. It gets kind of complicated. But if you want to simplify it, Frank, after answering your question, hopefully, if I was Canelo, I would just say, okay, that's enough of this crap. I want to fight. We're figuring this out right now. And it's September. I want to fight before the end of the year. I want to get some momentum with my career. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and wait. I'm going to fight Billy Joe Saunders, who's been wanting to fight me for 2 years. Who cares if people don't like it? I'll fight him. Then I'll fight Charlo. Then I'll fight Andre. But I got to do this because people are losing respect for me. So you do think mostly about yourself, but you are aware of the perception, because I remember Canelo was pretty hurt by some people that said that he was a carpetbagger and he really didn't earn anything and he was given stuff, and he was bothered about that. So you know he's hearing all these negative things. So will anything get done? Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
All right. Now to close things, here is we're going to go around the horn here. I will get sued for that one, I'm sure.
Heard that somewhere.
Charles, yeah. So that's a show someplace, I'm sure. Okay, you are, for each of us, you are the newly elected, minted, appointed commissioner of boxing. What's the first thing that you do? You don't have to have a solution, but what's the first thing you go, if I'm elected, I will.
I promise.
What's your pot in every kitchen statement?
try to bring all of these parties, the IBX, X-ray R, and TVO,
Okay.
whatever. Bring all of these alphabets organizations, particularly ones that matter, to come together, sit at the table, and go, look, if you want to make real money, this is how we used to do it back in the day. You want to make real money, start to bring these guys together so they cross, so we start to get the real fights that we need. Because of the factor that when you had too many champions, somebody's fighting on Fox SN 96.9 in Anchorage, Alaska, and you're supposed to be a champion. Bring all of these entities together and then say, hey, look, and then also talk to some promoters and be honest about it. Because even when back in the day, when they didn't like one another, if a fighter, I'll just say this real quick, along with the alphabet soup coming together, when two fighters want to fight, they will fight. And what I mean by that, simply put, you can talk about the delayed bout between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. When the guy, their powers that be were acting crazy, Floyd went to a basketball game. He saw Pacquiao. They met. They said, let's hammer this out. I want to fight you. You want to fight me. Let's get this together. Boom. Let's do that. And I think a lot of fighters with leverage, and it's not just Canelo, but guys with leverage have to tell their people, I want to fight this guy. I think he wants to fight me. Let's get it done. Because as you mentioned, both of you have mentioned before, they are the talent. They are the ones that put butts in the seats. They are the guys people turn on their little cable boxes for. Not the guys like, you remember when Michael Spinks and Butch Lewis back in the day. Butch Lewis always tried to run games, and sooner or later Michael was like, look, hey, you go back to Ali and Don King. Ali told Don King, don't you ever disrespect this guy, Angelo Dundee. This shows you that the talent is in charge. They just have to grab the reins, tell people what they want, and if they don't like it, you can see the door. It happens all the time. Changing trainers, changing management. Even with Golden Boy right now, Oscar had to back up because of the fact that Canelo's like, look, I don't like how you doing this anymore. So you notice Oscar's been very quiet. Oscar's so damn quiet, he talking about getting back in the ring.
Right.
Okay, now I'll give you a B plus for that because you said I will try instead of I will, and even though you spoke with your hands, you didn't speak with. Okay. Other than that, good.
He's a tough teacher. He's a tough
It's
teacher.
a political season. I gotta critique somebody because I can't critique the politicians anymore. We will on this occasion. No, okay. John.
Can I say one thing real quick? Vote for me.
Your time is up, sir. The moderator is passed.
Vote for me and you get a back scratcher. There you go.
Point of order, parliamentary procedure. All right, John. What needs is the new commissioner of boxing? What do you look at first and go, this is what we're going to do?
I would call all the state commission or whatever they are, the state, whoever, like New York State, whoever supposedly runs boxing in their states. I'd have a massive meeting like the mob used to do. We'd all meet in a big convention center or whatever, and we'd say, all right, all this crap you guys have been doing, done. We're going to have a unified boxing, just like, well, sort of, the NFL, like Major League Baseball. We're going to have something like that. We see how they do it. We're going to do the same thing because too many guys get lost in the shuffle. Too many guys get left outside. For example, Terrence Crawford is another one that I don't understand with his management team. I don't know what Bob Arum is doing. He should have fought Errol Spence 2 or 3 years ago. Terrence Crawford is 33 years old. What is going on here? So I would they would hate me, the promoters, because I would say, look, you guys got way too much power. Too much power. I'm clipping it. I'm going to neuter you guys. I'm going to have the power where I'm going to say, like Charles was saying, you're going to make this fight. You're going to make Crawford versus Errol Spence because that's what we got to do. No more, well, he's not ready or he's not known or he's not – nope. No excuses. You're going to put some kind of I don't know, put Vito in both of and let Vito shadow both of them and say, I can't go back. I go to the Italian things. What can I say? Say, that's it. We're working this out. And we're giving the fans, they forget about the fans. That's what drives me crazy. They forget about the fans. The fans have wanted this fight. Again, I'm all over the place, but it's like Manny and Floyd. Okay, maybe they didn't fight when everybody wanted it, but they did fight. Mm-hmm. And they did it. It wasn't Aram. He didn't do it. It wasn't anybody from it was Floyd Mayweather, really, who said to Manny Pacquiao, okay, all right, we got to do this. Yeah, right. And they did it. But I think some of the fighters don't feel confident, like Terrence Crawford. I wish he would, again, go to Aram and go, look, Bob, either you get me out of my contract or you make a big fight with any of these guys, because I'm sick of this.
I'm sick of it.
So that's what I do, Frank. I would have a big commission with a lot of power where I can tell those promoters, nope. That's not what we're doing here. We're not having Canelo fight Rocky Fielding because we want to add another title to his resume. No, veto that. Done. He's going to fight Andrade or he's going to fight Charlo because that's the logical way the sport is supposed to be. Never happened, Frank, but man, would I have fun doing it.
I'll be fun with it, yeah. Okay, all right. I'll give you the same grade I gave Charles.
What do we give him? Charles, what kind of grade do we give Frank?
Well, let me go and you'll see what you come up with. You're both able to grade me. All right. So even though we do not live in a utopian world, we live in America. And in America, we do the best that we can with what we have. Oh, okay, bullshit. All right. So here's my concept. This is one of the things, and this may not be the top of everyone else's priority, but it is for me because I think it's very important. Kind of along the line of what Charles was saying, we have too many belts. So you have to organize that. So Commissioner Farmer will take care of that part. My thing is we have too many weight classes, and we have too many people who are making weight on Friday and then aren't weighing anywhere close to the same thing on Saturday. So my thing is, first of all, we reorganize the weight classes so that it's not every 3 pounds at some places, and in the lighter weights, and then 25 pounds here. I don't know if I like the senior cruiserweight division that's being proposed. I think that's a little crazy. But the idea of a heavyweight is no longer 200 to 300 pounds. There is a wide gap there, so maybe something has to be done with that, but that's not really my concern. My concern is the guy that's fighting at 160 weighs in at 159 on Friday and weighs 185 on Saturday. That, to me, is just completely and total bullcrap. If the weight classes are a gap of 10, 12 pounds or whatever, you should be able to make weight and fight in that weight. Your walking around weight should be pretty close to your fight weight. So to me, that's important because we're looking at things that aren't necessarily equal. The weight classes are set up for things to be equal, and then they're not because you have some guys that can make weight. You got a guy that's 6'3" fighting at 147, but he's really not 147 when the fight comes. It's dangerous for him. It's dangerous for his opponent, and it's just not true. We're looking at a welterweight bout where one guy's a welterweight and one guy's a middleweight. That's not what we should have. And the fact that the guy's starving himself or depleting himself to make weight and then rehydrates, and that kind of fluctuation in weight isn't so safe either. So that to me would be, it's not the priority everyone else would have, but I think that eliminates a lot of problems that we have. And then, as Charles mentioned, if it's 2 belts per division or 1 belt per division or whatever, and you have, if you're going to have WBA, WBC, IB12, this and that, whatever, you should still be able to be ranked in one division or one category if you're the champion in the other one. It doesn't, or the number one contender. It doesn't make sense to me that we got to find 5 other slubs to be ranked because we can't rank the guys that are ranked in the other division or in the other category. I don't get that. If you're good, you're good. If you're the undefeated champion, fine. If you're the whatever it should be, that's what rankings are. It shouldn't be up to people like ourselves to make the actual rankings that make any sense. So as commissioner, I would say get rid of, as we've all said, get rid of all the excess baggage and all the BS, and let's put something out there that works for the people. My name is Frank Gordon, and I've approved this message.
So what's his grade, John?
What was that?
C minus.
My grade?
What's his grade for Frank?
Well, see, I didn't add that as Charles and I we would have done what you're saying. We just didn't. Charles mentioned it a little. Of course, the belts are ridiculous, so that would have been part of it, Frank. I mean, that goes without.
I'm piggybacking somebody else's. Okay.
Yeah, so that's okay. But no, Frank, you did very well. I'm here to announce that you are running for president of the United States, and I will endorse you. So more than these two guys running down. No, I'd give him a B+ because he made good points, Charles, and since he's such a tough grader, I obviously vengeful, being Italian again. I'm only going to give him the same grade. That's all I'm going to do is just give him a B+. That's the best he can get out of me. What do you think?
Well, Frank is a person of high intellect and whatnot. Yes. And then he feels, as he said, since I was very open with my hands and using my hands, he's very kind of still. See, I have a problem with that. So he's going to get a B from me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because of the fact that he was very confident. The one part that I guess that I'll probably have a little issue with, that I'm not sure that will be possible, and I might be wrong, because they've been doing it forever, is the fact that the rehydration. I mean, that's how guys get away with it. I mean, I think that would change boxing dramatically, because a lot of guys will not be able to fight a certain weight, because to me, that's a whole different scenario, how you had to go about your training, the whole nine. The guys have gotten, I guess my point is, guys have gotten that down to a science where they know, okay, I just got to be here good now. Then, as you mentioned, I'm at 185 now. But to be able to stay at that weight, I think that would add more drugs and all kinds of stuff. Because
that's another way of looking at it, right?
Yeah. And I'm just saying that from that standpoint. But I guess what I'm saying is, for so long that this has been going on, you'd almost be removing probably 75% of your folks that are boxing now. If you started brand new, yeah, but I think so many people have been trained this way. That's all they know. That's the way the system is. It would be kind of hard to kind of flip it right now, and you might lose a lot of your quality talent by doing that. Because guys like, Adrian Broners, I listened to him the other day saying, other guys saying too the same thing about the weight. It's like, it's not really that. It's just even I heard what was the guy's name? Tank. Tank said
Davis.
It's the last 4 pounds. He says, I'm good all the way up to that point, but it's the last 4 pounds. He said, you get to that weight, you do great things. The last 4 pounds are the hardest. And then you ask him to hold on at that 4 pounds too after that. All I'm asking is, I think that might be difficult for them to kind of hold that all the way through to the point of fight.
Let me respond to that real quick, John. The idea is that you've eliminated a weight class or two in the middle of that, so that last 4 pounds you don't have to worry about. So if you're at 135 and the gap between 135 and 140, just come in at 140. We've eliminated the middle between 135 and 140, so just come in at 140. Yeah, we've eliminated a few weight classes, but that's the thing of saying, now we got to go fight people, because now you can't go hide at a lower weight or at a higher weight or something. If the guy that you are actually the same size as is the guy that you're ducking, well, now he's in the same size. So, and again, I understand what you're saying, and I hadn't thought about the drugs and the cheating, because that's probably going to go along with that. But to me, it just seems that, all right, if I'm 135, I'm 135. And if I come in healthy at 135, that's what we'll fight, or 140 or 147 or whatever. But, if the last 4 pounds is a problem, eliminate the 4 pounds. Eliminate that problem. So I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Those are good points. I was just thinking, the reason they got rid of the weigh-in on the day is because a lot of guys were so weak when they fought in the ring. They weren't really themselves. So they gave them because they were worried that someone was going to die, and Dooku Kim did die,
right.
And back when he fought Boom Boom Mancini, they said a lot of it was he was cutting weight so much he was weak, even though you would have never known it in that fight. If you saw that fight, that was a war on top of a war. But they did that just to try to make it safer. And the irony is, like you said, Frank, it's a good point. You're fighting a guy, you weigh, okay, I weighed in at 159, and then you see the guy coming in the ring and you go to your trainer. shit, how much does he weigh now? Is he weighing around 190 now? What am I fighting, a cruiserweight?
Yeah,
you know, what's that? You know, and you're like, man, I only could hydrate up to 170, and he got up to 190? That doesn't seem fair. I mean, that's true. But I think the only way you would do that is you'd have to completely do the whole thing with the nutritionists, and you'd have to do what they do with the fighters now, where they have them weighing in, you know, the big fights. They'll say a month before you have to be like 8 pounds above what you got to weigh. And then say you're a middleweight, right? So you weigh 168, and then they monitor you so you're not killing yourself to get to that weight. So when you weigh that, and I would try going back to the day of the fight. I would. Because at least if you rehydrate on the day of the fight, which people did back in the old days too, you're not going to blow up 30 or 40 pounds. You might gain 10 maybe but at least that's going to keep the playing field closer, Frank. So that was true. But Charles is right. With all the steroids, the unspoken thing about steroids and people don't want to talk about, you know, some fighters are going to be saying, I can't do that, and I don't want to do that. Right. I can take the shortcut. I can do what I can do, and I can make weight without having to do that, and I'll feel good in the ring. See, so it's very complicated. There's no easy answers.
And also, I didn't provide the people a back scratcher, so that's where my grade goes down as well. So
this is true.
But okay, so not to write on my part of this, but the point of that question was, we always talk about blah, 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 black and white. This is what we think. But I want people to understand that we're not against the way things are done. We just want them to be done better. And not necessarily that we know better or we think we know better, but we have an idea of what might work. My part was, yeah, I just don't like the idea of a guy coming in the next day, 20 pounds over. It's not safe to make the weight. Then it's not safe to be at that weight the next day. Charles' point about there being too many divisions or too many categories or however you want to call it, I think we've been talking about that for a while, but you mentioned something when you were kind of joking about it, but there are even more now. There's IBF, IBO, WB9, there, the USBBA, blah, blah, blah. So you fought 3 fights, you're fighting for some kind of title. This is the participation when you're a little leaguer and everyone gets a trophy. You haven't earned a trophy yet. When you beat the best in the world and you beat the guy that owns the belt, you go over across the ring and go, give me that. That's mine now. But there shouldn't be 3 people in the stands going, yeah, I got one too, so what? Winning the belt should mean something.
That's the old argument, Frank, and I know we all agree with that, and I wish they would do something, but they seem to think that having some kind of title lifts the importance of the fight and the fighter up, and really what it does is it diminishes it. So you're right, and I know we all agree with that, because you're like, who is this? The IBF, the IBO? I mean, get out of here. They used to be just two or one. One would be better. But they think, meaning the promoters and everybody, that having them fight for a title brings up the interest. And see, I don't agree. I'm with you. I think when you win the title, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Well,
that's
Charles,
the way it's supposed to be.
Charles, I'm going to let you prove your point here. Let's look at welterweights. Who are – name 6 of the top welterweights. Just rapid fire off the top of your head.
Crawford, Spence, Garcia, Garcia. Shoot. Why am I drawing a blank? Crawford with Spence, Garcia.
Pacquiao.
Yeah,
Keith Thurman.
Right. Keith Thurman and somebody else.
Okay.
All right. Is that 5? Oh, I thought that was 6.
Okay, whatever. That's close. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
no, Porter.
Yeah, Sean Porter, of course.
Porter, right? Okay. All right. So, how is it possible that we have 6 guys that we named in 5-10 seconds that I think would universally people would agree, yeah, those are 6 of the best welterweights on the planet. But we could probably do 2 or 3 more if we really thought about it. Right. Maybe a guy moving up, maybe a guy moving down. how is it possible that a couple of weeks ago we had a world title welterweight fight with two guys that we don't even know who the hell they are?
Yeah, too many.
Too many belts, right? But not only too many belts, you got 4 belts. We named 6, 8 guys. Right. So, of those 6 or 8 guys, 4 belts should be distributed amongst them. Right. And yet we had a title fight a couple weeks ago with what? Huh? This is for a world title? Did they fight any of these guys to get that belt?
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a quick question on that. I guess my question would be, as a fighter, you mentioned those top 6 guys. How much do they recognize that belt, as you mentioned, of having legitimacy? Or do
I don't think any of them do.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them do. Why would I? Because for just what we just said, I'm legitimately one of the top 3 welterweights in the world, and I don't have a belt. And these guys not to slight them, but even 2 weeks later, I can't remember who they are, have a belt. Why would I respect the process? So as you're saying, now what do I have to respect Ring Magazine, or I have to respect cash?
No, you're right. You guys are right. And see, what I try to do at Max Boxing is I don't mention those titles because I consider those minor league titles. Yeah. That's how I do my thing. I say, nope, I'm not going to. Like when they say he's the interim world champion. It's like, give me a break. It's not an interim. Yeah. Come on, man. You got to throw that title thing in there. So I don't include that in anything. I don't call him no interim. He's ranked high. He's a high rank. He's a good contender. He's a good fighter. Yeah. None of that interim. That I word does not make any articles of Max Boxing. Not a chance.
That's the guidance counselor that's now teaching PE. Why the coach went away on rehab. The guidance counselor is an interim PE teacher.
That's right.
Yeah. But Charles, to your point, you made perfectly good sense with that, and the way you put it was perfect because there are belts out there that we have no idea what they are or the sanctioning body or whatever it is, and yet we as the fan are led to believe that that's important. And as you mentioned, I don't think the fighters really give a crap unless it means more money. It's like, you got a bonus for being in the All-Star game. Well, for the amount of money you're paying me, I should have made the All-Star game in the first place. So what was the point of negotiating that in the contract? You're right. I don't see it. And John, to your point, for what you would do is to say, okay, and he's to say, probably won't happen, but it would be a good thing to do. Let's eliminate all the crud.
Yeah.
Let's make one. I could see if we had an American conference, a European conference, and an Asian conference, whatever, and then those 3 or 4 European, whatever, those 3 or 4 have to fight together.
That's
to work
the goal.
Together. Yeah, they have to work together. But to have this one here, that one there, how do we do this? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And we get rid of, I don't know if we can get rid of promoters, but you'd have to say, let's come up with a boxing, I don't know if you want to come up with a boxing league, or you look at what the ATP does or the PGA and go, okay, we have individuals competing, but we have to have them sanctioned in what they do. I'm not sure how you do it, but it seems like these UFC does it, right? They don't have 18 different bodies trying to run things, so maybe there's a way that I don't know how you do it without pissing everybody off.
Yeah, but that's why it'll never happen, Frank. There's too much money involved, and it'll never happen.
So we need a coup.
Yeah.
Or we need somebody with way too much money to go, I'm going to outbid everybody for everything. You guys can either join my company or you can just take your earnings and say, it's been a nice life, I'm done.
Well, that was what we thought Al Heyman was going to do when he first came in. He had all kinds of money. We thought we were going to get all the best fights. And he did, to be fair. A lot of people don't like the man. I don't really know why. It's a personal thing, I guess. Whatever. I don't know him. How can I dislike him? I don't know him. He barely says anything. He did put together some good fights, but also some real dogs, some real bombs. So, okay, he's got a mixed record. But I think his goal was a good one. He was going to televise the Premier Champions, televise a lot of fights, try to cut out some of the crap. He didn't mention titles as much in the beginning. But as always, there's that word you used, Frank. There's so much crud in the sport that it always gets back into the mix. and it clutters everything up. We need like a massive plunger here or something to get rid of it. And unfortunately, it's going to take probably an act of God for something, and it's not going to happen. There's too much money, too many egos, and too many guys saying, "I like it the way it is. This is
right.
fine." You ignore all that, and it sounds good, but it's never going to happen.
Well, I think we've made some inroads on what we wanted to get involved with and what we wanted about today. I like the fact that we were able to talk about this part of whatever's going to happen. I think that coming out of this, we're going to have some more clarification and some more muddiness as well. But I think it's good that we're talking about what's coming up instead of what's happened in the past. So, gentlemen, thank you once again.
Okay.
For everyone concerned, find us on, well, you know the places by now. If you don't, too bad. Look it up. Reality of Sports for Mr. Farmer, Max Boxing, and all of the you can see the book in the background for Mr. Responding, and for me, I'm all over the place. So if you haven't heard my voice in the last 6 hours, you must not be on the internet. So thanks once again, folks. Enjoy yourselves and have a great day.